So we count a waltz in 3/4, and we'd say it goes a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and a 7 and a 8 and a... and we'd also often have a slower waltz, and it would sound a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... So obviously when I'm counting like that, it can sound very similar to a mazurka. And I think the reason to say a waltz rather than mazurka is if you want the accent always on 1. You don't want any kind of... So you wouldn't have a waltz if it was going... I would say that would require a mazurka rhythm. But if it's going... like a waltz turn or a balance, that feels more waltzy. Well, like I was saying in the mazurka video, the line between a waltz and mazurka in that kind of situation is very blurred. So often if you ask for a waltz but you count more like that, they might play something a bit more mazurka-ish. And it's not like, this is definitely a mazurka, this is definitely a waltz, it's more like in between. But with these faster ones, like with allegro exercises, it is a waltz. The 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and that kind of thing. So I think with a waltz, unless it's really slow, you're going to ask for 4 counts in, and that will sound like... if it was really slow, if it was like, you might ask for 2 counts in, and that would be 7 and 8 and that would also be fine. That would sound like that. So it's either going to be 2 counts or 4 counts in. A lot of waltzes in the grades, but they're all very different depending on what they're doing. So I've got a few examples. The first example is in grade 3 in the allegro section, we have an ensemble exercise, and this is more the quicker kind of waltz. It has 2 counts in, which you wouldn't do in a free class. It goes like this. So it's 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. And then we've also got a slower waltz in grade 4. At the bar, we do a rondeggiant exercise, and it's to a waltz, but this is a slower kind of waltz, and it goes... So yeah, that's the slower kind of waltz. I think we wouldn't call it a mazurka because it's smooth, and because the accent's always on 1, so it's always going and a 1 and a 2. It's not going 1 a 2 3 2 a 2 or anything like that. And then there's another kind of waltz. I mean, there's probably more, but there's the one I was thinking of is in grade 5. In the allegro section, we have the chassé tom levé balancé, and you might say this is a grand waltz if you wanted to. It's just bigger, and it's again got 2 counts in. It goes... So I'd say that might be more of a grand waltz, kind of grand allegro feel. I think, obviously it does sound quite mazurka-ish, but the reason we'd call it a grand waltz is because of what we're doing, or the reason we'd say we want a grand waltz is because we're jumping, we're going big jump, land, this. We're doing one thing, a bar or a count, because we're counting 1 count per bar. And I think that's why we'd say it's a waltz rather than a mazurka. So the mazurka's saved for things where we're doing itty-bitty things in between the counts, like or 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2, that kind of thing. And the waltz is saved for things where we're going and land, that kind of thing. If you're thinking of a famous waltz, you could think of the Sleeping Beauty waltz, which is the one that goes... which is from the ballet and Disney as well. You might think of Mistletoe and Wine. There's a lot of waltzes. Take your pick. So I think when we're thinking of exercises we might use a waltz for, we're thinking allegro exercises. And then also we're thinking pirouettes, especially pirouettes in the grades, because because they're not going to be doing as many pirouettes. With pirouettes, it does get kind of like that kind of, is it a mazurka, is it a waltz area, where with all allegro, lots of allegro can be set to a waltz, and it's going to work like Sisson, Assemblées, Grand Jeté en Tournant, Grand Jeté en Avant, all those kind of things. They're going to be waltzes. And then lots of people will also say, can I have a waltz, please, for things like pliés and rond de jambe. And, you know, you understand what they mean, because we are going to do it in 3/4, and it will work. But later there's going to be another video in a sec about lyrical 3/4, I think. Maybe it's lyrical. Yeah, I think there is. The ICD have written lyrical 3/4 as well. So I'd say that for those pliés and rond de jambes and adage and things like that, I'd save the lyrical 3/4, I'd use that to describe those, and the waltz should be more of these jumpy things. So if I was in a ballet class or a DDE exam and I wanted to do something on a waltz, I'd say, can I have a waltz, please? We'll have 4 counts in. 5 and a 6 and a 7 and a 8 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, and that would be great. You might also ask for a much slower waltz. They'd say, oh, can I have a waltz, please? Run it quite slowly, and we'll have just 2 counts in. 7 and a 8 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, and that would be great. One last thing to say about waltzes is there is another kind of waltz that the ISD likes to talk about, and that's called a Spanish waltz. It sounds the same. It goes 1 and a 2 and a dun 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 dun. The only difference is it's written in Spain, you do Spanish dance to it, it might have some Spanish harmonies, and then lots of Spanish waltzes do go 1 and then a 2 and so they have that kind of dun la da dun 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 dun, but not all of them. So if you just feel like you've said waltz too many times in your ballet class or in your DDE exam, and you want to do something different, especially for an allegro exercise like Sisson and bigger, you might just say Spanish waltz and get an extra musical mark for knowing the words Spanish waltz without knowing much else. So it just sounds like 1 da 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 2 and da 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 da. Yeah, so Spanish waltz would be a good thing to say as well.